No one saw it coming. Not the heroes who believed they were Earth's last line of defense. Not the people who trusted that their world was finally safe. And certainly not the man who believed himself to be the strongest thing that planet had ever known. The sky did not crack with thunder. There was no warning, no prophecy, no cosmic announcement. There was only a pressure in the air, heavy, suffocating, as if reality itself had taken a breath it could not release. Omni Man hovered above the city, blood still drying on his knuckles. Another fight ended, another reminder that this world was fragile, weak, temporary. He had already broken its greatest champions, already proven that resistance was meaningless. To him, Earth was not a battlefield anymore. It was a lesson. And then, something changed. The ground below fractured, not from impact, but from presence. Stones split apart, as if rejecting what was about to emerge. The air twisted, folding inward, like a wound opening in the fabric of the world. From that wound, something stepped through, not a hero, not a savior. A man, tall, scarred, silent. Ash clung to his skin like memory. Chains wrapped around his arms, not as restraints, but as reminders. His eyes did not search the sky. They did not scan the city. They locked onto Omni Man. And for the first time since arriving on this planet, Omni Man felt it. Not fear, recognition. This was not prey. This was not a challenge meant to be crushed and forgotten. This was something else. Kratos did not speak. He never needed to. He had crossed worlds before. He had shattered gods who believed themselves eternal. He had ended pantheons that thought power made them untouchable. This world was unfamiliar. Its heroes were strangers. Its rules irrelevant. All that mattered was the presence before him. Omni Man descended slowly, cracking the ground as his boots touched down. His posture was calm, confident, almost bored. He had faced monsters, armies, legends. They all fell. "You don't belong here," Omni Man said, his voice steady, absolute. "Leave now, and I might let this world survive." Kratos tilted his head slightly. He had heard those words before, spoken by gods, kings, tyrants who believed the world bent around them. They were always wrong. The wind died. The city went silent. Even the distant screams faded, as if the world itself understood what was about to happen. Two beings stood face to face, not as heroes or villains, but as forces. One was born to conquer worlds in the name of an empire that demanded obedience. The other was forged by loss, betrayal, and endless war against gods who thought themselves untouchable. This was not about justice. This was not about saving anyone. This was about dominance. Omni Man moved first. The shockwave from his launch tore through buildings, sending glass and steel screaming through the air. He struck Kratos with enough force to level a city block, an attack that had ended countless lives before. Kratos did not move. His feet carved trenches into the ground, but he did not fall. He did not stagger. Slowly, deliberately, he raised his head. And for the first time, Omni Man's confidence wavered, because Kratos smiled. Not with joy, not with excitement, but with the quiet certainty of someone who had already seen this ending before. This world had survived gods. It had endured heroes and monsters alike, but it had never faced this. Two unstoppable forces. One fragile planet. And only one of them would remain standing when the dust finally settled. If you want to see how this collision unfolds, and what happens to a world caught between them, make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments who you think walks away alive. This is the Kratos effect. The moment Omni Man realized Kratos had not moved, instinct took over. He did not hesitate. He did not speak again. He attacked. The battlefield no longer resembled a city. What once stood as towers and streets had been reduced to fractured stone and burning steel. Fires spread unchecked. Smoke climbed into the sky, forming a dark ceiling over a world that could not escape what was happening below. Omni Man hovered above the ruins, staring down at Kratos. He had faced resistance before. He had faced rebellion. But this was different. Kratos stood amid the destruction, unmoved by the chaos around him. His breathing was steady, his gaze unwavering. This world meant nothing to him, not because it was weak, but because he had already lost worlds of his own. Omni Man descended slowly, landing across from him. "You don't understand," Omni Man said. "This planet is insignificant. It will fall eventually, with or without me. I'm saving it from worse." Kratos turned his head slightly. "You lie to justify your cruelty," he said. "I have worn that excuse before." The words struck deeper than any blow. Omni Man's jaw tightened. He stepped forward, his presence radiating authority, certainty, superiority. "I was sent to prepare this world," he said, "to make it strong, to make it useful." Kratos took a step forward as well. "I was made to serve gods," he replied. "They told me the same lies." For a moment, neither moved. Two warriors shaped by duty, two weapons forged by systems that demanded obedience. But only one of them had broken free. Omni Man attacked again, this time with precision instead of rage. Every strike was calculated, every movement efficient. He aimed for joints, for balance, for control. Kratos responded not with speed, but with inevitability. He absorbed the blows, adapted to them, learned their rhythm. Each clash sent shockwaves tearing through what remained of the city. Buildings collapsed miles away. The ground split open beneath them. Omni Man slammed Kratos into the earth and held him there, pressing down with overwhelming force. "Stay down," he growled. "You're not part of this world. You don't get to decide its fate." Kratos grabbed Omni Man's wrist. Slowly, impossibly, he began to rise. "I decide my own," Kratos said. With a roar, he broke free, driving Omni Man backward. The blades of chaos whipped through the air, wrapping around Omni Man's torso, burning into his skin. Omni Man tore free with raw strength, but the damage was done. Not to his body, to his certainty. Omni Man charged again, tackling Kratos and carrying him into the sky. They broke through the clouds, climbing higher and higher, until the world below looked small and fragile. Up here, Omni Man felt in control again. He slammed Kratos repeatedly, trying to end it before it went any further. "You could have walked away," Omni Man shouted. "You chose this." Kratos grabbed him by the throat. "I always choose," he said. They plummeted. The impact was cataclysmic. The earth cracked open as they struck, sending a shockwave across the planet. Somewhere far away, tectonic plates shifted, oceans surged. The world itself reacted to their collision. Omni Man rose first, staggering slightly. This fight was taking longer than it should, costing more than it should, and worst of all, it was being witnessed. High above, satellites captured the battle. Across the globe, people watched as their so-called protector struggled against a stranger who refused to kneel. Omni Man looked around, realizing what was happening. Fear was spreading, not of invasion, of him. He turned back to Kratos, eyes burning with rage. "You're turning them against me," he said. Kratos stood, bloodied but unbroken. "They were never yours," he replied. Omni Man screamed and attacked with everything he had left, speed, strength, fury. He unleashed it all in a relentless assault, meant to erase Kratos from existence. But with every blow, Kratos grew more resolute. This was not about winning. This was about ending a lie. Kratos caught Omni Man mid-charge, lifted him, and slammed him into the ground again and again, each impact echoing across the planet like a heartbeat of destruction. Omni Man fought back desperately now, no longer dominant, no longer certain. For the first time in his long life, he was not fighting to conquer, he was fighting to survive. And as the dust settled once more, the truth became undeniable. This world could not contain both of them, and one of them was finally starting to understand what it meant to face something that could not be controlled. The world was dying, not slowly, not symbolically, physically. The ground split open in massive fractures that stretched for miles. Entire sections of the planet shifted under the stress of forces it was never meant to endure. The sky above burned red as debris filled the atmosphere, turning daylight into a permanent twilight. Kratos and Omni Man stood at the center of it all. Both were damaged. Both were bleeding. But only one of them looked unchanged inside. Omni Man hovered weakly above the shattered terrain, his breathing heavy, his movements no longer effortless. Every strike he threw now carried desperation instead of certainty. He had underestimated this world, and worse. He had underestimated Kratos. "You don't understand what you're doing," Omni Man said, forcing himself upright. "If this planet breaks, millions die. You think your rage makes you righteous?" Kratos looked around, the burning horizon, the collapsing cities, the people fleeing in terror. "I know exactly what happens when gods fight without restraint," he said. "I have lived with those consequences." Omni Man laughed bitterly. "Then stop," he demanded. "Walk away. Let me finish what I started." Kratos tightened his grip on the blades of chaos. "I will not allow another world to suffer for a lie." Omni Man screamed and charged, his final reserves unleashed in one reckless assault. He struck Kratos with everything he had left, driving him through mountains of debris, smashing him into the planet's fractured core. For a moment it seemed like Omni Man might finally overwhelm him. Then Kratos stood, slowly, deliberately. Each movement sent tremors through the planet. His wounds burned, his muscles screamed, but his resolve did not waver. Kratos reached behind him. The Leviathan axe flew into his hand, frost erupting across the battlefield. Ice clashed against flame as axe and blades moved in perfect synchronization. This was no longer a fight. This was judgment. Kratos attacked with brutal precision, each strike calculated, each blow carrying the weight of every god he had slain before. Omni Man fought back desperately, blocking, dodging, striking where he could. But he was losing ground. Not physically, mentally. Every time Omni Man tried to assert control, Kratos broke it. Every time he tried to dominate, Kratos endured. The longer the battle dragged on, the clearer it became. Omni Man needed this fight to end. Kratos did not. They clashed again, colliding with such force that the shockwave rippled across the planet. In the distance, oceans rose into massive walls of water. Volcanoes awakened. The world screamed in response. Omni Man stumbled. Kratos did not miss the moment. He drove the Leviathan axe into Omni Man's side, freezing the wound instantly. Omni Man howled, ripping free and retreating into the air, clutching his side. "You're going to destroy everything," Omni Man shouted. "Is that what you want?" Kratos stared up at him. "No," he said. "That is what happens when tyrants are allowed to rule." With a powerful leap, Kratos closed the distance, grabbing Omni Man midair and driving him back toward the surface. They crashed once more, deeper than before, breaking through layers of Earth until they reached a massive chasm glowing with molten light. The planet's core pulsed beneath them. This was the edge. If this fight continued here, the world would not survive. Omni Man realized it too. Panic flashed across his face, brief but undeniable. "You're insane," he said. "You'll doom them all just to stop me." Kratos tightened his grip around Omni Man's throat. "I will end this," he said, "one way or another." The planet trembled violently now, systems collapsing, balance failing. Above them, the sky cracked with energy as if reality itself was beginning to tear. This was the moment of no return. One final clash would decide everything, not just who lived, but whether this world would exist at all when the dust settled. Kratos drew back his fist. Omni Man braced himself, knowing, truly knowing, for the first time in his life, that he might lose. The world blurred as Omni Man crossed the distance between them in an instant. His fist slammed into Kratos' chest with enough force to shatter mountains. The impact sent a shockwave rippling outward, flattening buildings, cracking streets, and hurling debris into the sky like shrapnel. For a heartbeat, the dust swallowed everything. Silence followed. Omni Man hovered in the air, watching closely. He had felt resistance, more than expected, but resistance always broke eventually. Then the dust parted. Kratos stood exactly where he had been. His feet were buried deep into the earth now, stone crushed beneath his weight. His armor was cracked, his skin bruised. Blood ran down his chest, but he was still standing. Slowly, Kratos reached up and wiped the blood from his mouth. He looked at it on his fingers, then back at Omni Man. Not angry, not surprised, disappointed. Omni Man's expression hardened. He dropped to the ground again, this time with intent. The planet groaned beneath the impact. "You're tougher than the rest," Omni Man said, "but this ends the same way." Kratos said nothing. Instead, the chains around his arms rattled. awakening like living things. The blades of chaos ignited, flames crawling along their edges, burning with a heat that did not belong to this world. Omni Man moved again, faster, relentless. He struck Kratos across the face, then the ribs, then the spine, a blur of blows meant to overwhelm, to dominate. Each hit carried the force of extinction. Kratos was driven backward, carving trenches through the city, demolishing everything in his path. And then he stopped. Kratos planted his feet, wrapped one chain around Omni Man's arm, and pulled. The sudden reversal caught Omni Man off guard. For the first time, he was yanked forward instead of choosing his path. Kratos slammed his forehead into Omni Man's face with brutal precision. The crack echoed like thunder. Omni Man was thrown across the skyline, crashing through a tower before skidding across the ground in a storm of fire and metal. He rose quickly, shaking off the impact. His nose was bleeding. That had never happened before. Omni Man touched the blood, staring at it with disbelief that quickly turned into fury. "You think pain makes you equal?" he snarled. "I've destroyed worlds stronger than you." Kratos began to walk toward him. Each step shook the ground. Each footfall felt deliberate, final. "I have killed gods who believed the same," Kratos said, his voice low and heavy, like stone grinding against stone. Omni Man launched himself again, this time from above. He grabbed Kratos, carried him into the sky, and drove him downward with overwhelming speed. They crashed into the earth, forming a crater so vast it swallowed entire city blocks. Before Kratos could rise, Omni Man pinned him down, fists raining like meteors. Blow after blow, relentless, merciless. This was how Omni Man ended fights. Overwhelming force. No pauses, no mercy. But Kratos did not beg. He did not retreat. He endured. As Omni Man raised his fist for the final strike, Kratos caught it. The ground beneath them shattered as their strength collided. Omni Man pushed harder, muscles straining, veins burning with effort. Kratos pushed back. The crater widened. The earth screamed. Somewhere far away, oceans trembled. This was not strength versus strength anymore. This was will. Kratos twisted Omni Man's arm, broke the hold, and rose in a single violent motion. He drove his knee into Omni Man's abdomen, then hurled him through the air with savage precision. Omni Man recovered mid-flight, stopping himself before impact. He hovered again, breathing heavier now. This wasn't supposed to be happening. This world wasn't supposed to have something like this. Below them the city burned, fires raged, structures collapsed. Humanity fled in terror, caught between two beings who did not belong to their reality. And high above it all, Omni Man finally understood the truth. This was not a hero he could intimidate, not a monster he could crush easily. This was a force shaped by endless war, and the longer this fight continued, the more dangerous Kratos became. The planet was screaming, the ground beneath them fractured violently. Molten light surging through the cracks like the world's own blood. Above, the sky twisted and split, clouds spiraling as gravity itself struggled to hold together. Kratos and Omni Man stood at the edge of annihilation. Omni Man was shaking now, not from pain alone but from realization. Every breath felt heavier, every movement slower. This fight had stripped him of certainty, of control, of the illusion that he was untouchable. "You don't have to do this," Omni Man said, his voice strained. "I can leave. This world will survive if you let me go." Kratos did not answer immediately. He looked past Omni Man toward the burning horizon, toward the cities reduced to ruins, toward a world that had never asked for gods, conquerors, or saviors. "I have heard those words before," Kratos said. "They are always spoken too late." Omni Man lunged one final time, desperation fueling his last attack. He struck with everything he had left, a blur of speed and fury meant to end the fight in a single moment. Kratos met him head-on. Their collision sent a shockwave that tore through the planet's crust, reaching deep into its core. For a heartbeat, time itself seemed to slow, the world frozen at the brink of destruction. Kratos wrapped his chains around Omni Man's arms, locking him in place. "No more," Kratos said. With a brutal pull, he dragged Omni Man downward, slamming him into the molten rock below. Omni Man screamed as heat and pressure overwhelmed him, his strength finally failing against something that would not break. Kratos raised the Leviathan axe. This was not rage. This was resolve. He brought the axe down. The impact echoed across the planet like a final judgment. The molten core surged, then began to stabilize, the catastrophic chain reaction halted by the sheer force of the blow. Omni Man lay motionless, his body broken, his conquest ended. Silence followed. The ground stopped shaking. The sky slowly began to clear. The world, battered and scarred, remained intact. Kratos stood alone. He looked at what remained of Omni Man, not with triumph, but with understanding. Another warrior forged by lies, another weapon used until it broke. Kratos turned away. He had no throne to claim, no world to rule, no victory to celebrate. His presence had changed everything, and that was enough. As he walked toward the rift that had brought him here, the people of this world watched from afar, not cheering, not celebrating, surviving. The rift began to close behind him, reality stitching itself back together as if trying to forget what had just happened. Kratos paused for a moment and looked back. This world would rebuild, but it would never be the same. And then, he was gone. The rift sealed shut. The planet endured. One world, one survivor. This is the Kratos effect. If you enjoyed this story, make sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more self-contained crossover narratives. And tell me in the comments, what world should Kratos enter next? Your ideas might shape the next story. Until then, remember what happens when a god walks into a fragile world.